Hey Bookaholics, welcome to another video. So today I'm doing my July wrap-up. I don't know how I feel about this month because it felt like it went by really slow, but it also went by really fast because, well, the summer is pretty much over now. We're getting into August, which is like usually goes by really fast, and then you're back in school or you're back to fall or whatever you're back to. It's back. It just felt like this month, it felt like it went really slow because I don't know if because it's like a 31-day month or what, but it also felt like it went really fast. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but it definitely felt like a weird month. But I'm doing my July wrap up, and I did not read as much as I did last month, even though considering this was a longer month. I just had a hard time getting right back into reading, even though I was so pumped up into reading when I was done June. But I don't know if it just fell. I made that TBR video, if you watched it, where I used my Choose For Me app. Wasn't all that excited with the books it picked. I did read one of the books that was on that list, or I'm reading it currently. I'm happy with that, but did not follow that TBR again at all. So I think this month I'm just not gonna have a TBR. I'm gonna choose what I want to, just from my list of books I have on here. So I think I'm just not gonna have a TBR video because I'm not gonna follow it anyways. And we're gonna see how August goes. So yeah, but let's just get right into my wrap up. The first book I read this month, finally, I read it, finally. It took me so long to finally read this book. I got it in like February or something. Like I bought this book a while ago, and I just never read it because I was like, I'll wait until I get the other books. And then even when I got the other books, I still didn't read it. But finally, I read it, and that book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This has been on my TBR for so long, and finally I read it, and I really enjoyed it. I was not too sure how I would enjoy this book because there's so much hype around it, and I'm so happy I liked it because I bought the other two books. So I actually really liked it. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, kind of. Like, it has its own little twist on it, on the story, and it does its own little thing. But it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling where the main character, she accidentally kills a wolf who ends up being a fairy, and the person who is kind of the fairy, not fairy god, but like, it's a high fairy, and he takes her back to his castle thing and holds her there indefinitely for killing this fairy unknowingly. And that's kind of what the story follows. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked Feyre's character. Like, she was a very fun person to read from. She is very strong, and I really liked her personality. Like, she's very strong. She was like the youngest of her family, but she was like the leader of her family. She took charge of what they need to do to survive, and I really liked that kind of aspect of her character. It really showed who she was and who she may become, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to say too much because spoilers, but I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 5 stars. I can't really remember what I gave it. It was either 4, 4.5, or 5 stars, and I did really enjoy this book. I'm really excited to get into the second one. I wasn't really in the mood to read the second one once I finished this because, well, if you don't know, the second one is freaking humongous, and I just didn't want to do it, so I just haven't done it. I picked different books to read, but yeah, this is the first book I read in July, which I actually started in like the middle of July. So the first book I tried to read was actually How to Be Single, which was the first one on my TBR. And I read the first chapter, and I just didn't really care about continuing at that moment. Like, I feel like it would be a fun book to read, but I'm just not in that mood at the moment, so I just didn't read it. So I just didn't, and I picked something else, and I decided to pick this one. And I'm actually really happy I did, because now I know that I will actually like this series, because I really did like this first book, and I was so scared I wouldn't, and I would have wasted my money on the 2 other books, but I really did enjoy this, so I'm really happy about that. The second book I read, which was an audiobook, and I was absolutely amazed by this book. I loved it so very much. The story was very good, and the person who was performing it was very, very good. I really, really enjoyed it. And that book was If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. I love this book so much. This one is about a transsexual girl who never felt like a boy. She always felt like a girl, and she finally went through the transitioning, and it was really hard in her school and in her hometown she was living that she had to move to where her dad was living and kind of like start over in a new school in a new community where no one knew, and it was kind of like a new experience for her. It was very, very good. Like, I actually took a women and genders studies where we did talk a little bit about transgender and transsexual, and one of the projects in that class was to either write an essay or do like kind of an arts project, and I asked the teacher if I can write like a fictional story as an art project, and she allowed it, and I did, and I actually ended up doing research on transgender and transsexuals, and I wrote my own story on it. I would never actually have it published because I don't know if my story probably isn't all that representative of what actually happens, and I didn't want to actually do anything with it, even though the teacher said I should, because I got 100% on it and she really loved it and she really was impressed by it. But I just never felt comfortable with actually publishing it because who knows what would happen with that, if it was even all that representative of the transsexual and transgender community. So I just didn't do anything with it, but I did learn some stuff from my research and from that class. I was really excited to read this book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. There's some parts that were really hard to listen to during this book. Like, I cried during some parts in this book. Even though it was an audiobook, like, I was still so invested in it, and it just was so emotional, and I just loved it so much. Gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. If I'm loving it this much, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved it. Now, I can't represent it at all. Like, even in the ending of this book, the author actually had an acknowledgement of her fictional story not being all that, like, she took some liberties, and it's not, this is the absolute concrete way that transgender and transsexual people live. It's not. And everyone has a different experience, and everyone has different living and different lives and how they deal with this, and this was just one way of representing it, and it's acknowledged that it might not be all that factual. It definitely takes a lot of liberties. It does acknowledge that at the end. So even though you read this, don't take it as like be all end all of how transgender and transsexual people live. It's not, but it's really good. It really makes you think. So I'm so happy I read this one. I didn't buy it because I finally learned about the app Overdrive, which is like a library kind of thing where you can get audiobooks and ebooks, and I got the audiobook of this book there, and I'm so excited to actually browse through this app and find different things that I can actually listen to audiobooks and not have to pay for it. It just be through the library, and I'm so excited, and this is how I read this book, and I'm so happy I found this to read this book because this book was amazing. I will probably buy it eventually because it was that good. But yeah, that was the second book I read this month, and I'm so happy I read it. It was very good. If there's one kind of diverse book you'd read, I would highly recommend If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. The last book I read this month, I'm still reading it, but I'm like, where am I? I am on page 348, and there is 378 pages. So I'm like, very close to being done, and today is the last day of July, so I'm going to finish it definitely today. But that book is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sanjay Menon. I'm really enjoying this book. This is one of the books that was on my TBR, so I really wanted to read this. I'm really, really enjoying this book. It's been like a slow process because I've been actually working a lot this month, especially these last 2 weeks. So I haven't been like invested like reading it every day or anything like that, but I've been going through it and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm really happy with where this is going. It's definitely a summer read, very romantic and very just cute, and if you just want like a contemporary fun read that is cute and romantic and just summery and just so much fun, definitely read this one because it's so cute. Now this one, it follows Dimple and Rishi. Obviously they're in the title. This one follows Dimple and Rishi. They are both in an Indian family and they're both being pressured by their parents. Rishi is more accepting of his parents pushing him to get married because he wants that traditional life. But Dimple, she is very, very against her mom trying to marry her off, and kind of like she's convinced that her mom is only convinced that she is valuable if she's able to get married. So Dimple's very against that, and one of her ways of kind of going against that is going to this Insomnia Con where she can work with other people who are going into computer design and create an app and getting an award at the end where you can work with this really big person to help get your app into market. And she goes to that, and someone else meets her there is Rishi, and he ends up learning about that through his parents trying to get them set up. So it's very, very cute. They kind of have this really cute meet cute. It is so adorable. Oh my god, I love it so much. I'm not going to hint how it is. This one I'm really, really enjoying. I feel like it's going to be like a 4, 4.5, maybe even a 5 depending on how it ends. But I feel like it's more going to be like a 4, 4.5 star. And I'm just really, really loving it so far, and I will probably read this one eventually. Not right away, maybe next summer or something, or if I'm really feeling like I want a really cute, just romantic thing, I might pick this one up again. But this one, if you love contemporary, just fun reads, definitely pick this one up. So that is the last book I read this month. So compared to last month, this month was kind of small, but I really don't care. I read as much as I could. I read as much as I wanted to, so I'm not going to force myself to read more books because then I'm not going to enjoy them as much. So I was forcing myself to read How to Be Single, and that's why I didn't start reading until halfway through the month when I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm picking what I want. And I did. So, yeah, that is my wrap-up for this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below all the books that you guys read this month. I would love to know. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Check out my other social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. I make a video every Thursday, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye!